Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Just a second as usual, and we will go ahead and get started with the stream. So as we start off these CG Cookie live streams, we like to start them off with you guys telling us where you're from, where you're watching the stream from, and we'll do quick shout outs while we finish doing the marketing post on all the social networks we got.
We already have some greetings and hellos from people. Gio from Belgium is here again. Hello. Christy McAbee from Portland, Oregon. Jake Scott from Texas. Viva from Slovakia. And yeah. Oh, and Luis is here.
Hello.
She actually says, okay, so I may have just broken the speed limit once or twice trying to get home in time for the live stream. I call that dedication. So good evening.
Oh, well, I appreciate your disobedience toward the authority.
we don't want you to do that, though.
We don't recommend it, but it's appreciated.
Yes. Yes.
All right. I'm actually already done and ready to go.
You ready to go?
Yep. You ready?
Yep.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure I think I'm ready.
The camera's like, are you ready? And it'll just like pan, or it cuts to you and then comes to me.
Just cuts back and forth. We're like doing different things with different hats on every time. Okay, let's start this off. Hi, I'm Tim Von Rieden, and I'm with Joe Chico.
Hello.
And welcome to this Wednesday CG Cookie live stream for the 2D digital art section. And in today's topic, I wanted to cover horror. And the reason for that is I think it's something that we don't cover as much. And in my opinion, there's four main genres. There's fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and cute. And I feel like a lot of focus always gets put on either fantasy or sci-fi. And I want to talk more about horror and what makes the horror genre, and do just maybe a fun little concept of something that would be related to the horror subject matter. And as always, if you have any questions, even if they don't pertain to what I'm working on specifically, if it's about digital art, getting a job in the industry, or even something fun, I feel like our live streams have a mix of something that's educational as well as entertaining. So feel free to ask. And the question for this live stream, and me and Joe decided we're going to keep it more fun, was, oh, wait, hold on. Why do we have another?
I don't know how we have this person in here. Oh, wait a second. Did you post?
Hold on. Ugh, of course.
We're just going to get like a bunch of people in here just being like, hi.
And here I thought I was being so good with my marketing. I was like, I already got half of it ready to go. All right, hold on.
Oh, we've just been informed that labas means hi in Lithuanian.
Labas?
Labas.
Well, labas.
From Nomita. Very cool. Oh, how do you pronounce the U in this? I think it's.
I can't see which one you're selecting.
Oh, I just selected it. It might pop up in a second.
No, I think I have that error where I can't see what ones you select.
Oh man, it's the happy face with the U where it's got the two dots above it.
Oh, there we go. Gruzi? You know what? I shouldn't be the one to try to decipher what that is without actually knowing what it means. Gruzi. I'll say Gruzi, but I don't think that's right.
Jill wants you to make a horror version of my face.
What?
Won't be too hard, right? Oh!
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 You got you. Oops. Oh, it's Twitter. Tim, get your Twitters right. Come on.
Mikhail says, hello from Tennessee at watching while I'm in art class. I wonder if your teacher appreciates that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure if you should be doing that during your school time, but I appreciate it. Almost done, almost done. Okay, let me just do a double check. Make sure that we don't have any more links to the actual chat.
Self-Made Geek says, came for the horror art, stayed for the cute artists. Why, thank you.
No comment. All right, I think we're good. I guess we'll see.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. All right, so then for today's concept, I don't know where I left off. I have a really bad short-term memory. I'm going to pretend like it was talking about questions. If you have any questions, regardless of what I'm working on, feel free to ask. And before I start, me and Joe's collection of art books don't actually include that many like general horror games or films, but I did find a few, and I think that the ones that I do have, there's things I like about them. So the first one, Dead Space. This I did a review on about 2 years ago, and while I didn't think it was the greatest of art books, it definitely captures what is more of like a gore horror concept. And it's like it's with what's the word for that? It's with things that are familiar, and in this case, it's like a human body, and then like deconstructing that and then making it slightly strange, and then really pushing it with like limbs coming out of areas that it shouldn't. And it's not distorting. I can't think of the right word. Joe, what am I trying to say?
Dismemberment?
Maybe. But that's more of like cutting arms off. It's like, it's almost like exaggeration. I'll just use the word exaggeration for now. What?
Distortion?
Distortion, thank you. Distortion of human proportions, and really pushing it past the point of it being familiar and comfortable and more toward it being uncomfortable, and it makes you cringe. It's like I don't want to look at that like that. It's making me feel uncomfortable, and that's a good thing. So they have a lot of good concepts of that. And the other ones that I have that are similar to that are like The Last of Us and Devil May Cry. I think they both kind of fit that same genre of taking something familiar and then twisting it just to the point of being uncomfortable. And then we also had Dark Souls, which I've never played. Joe, or I've looked through the art book, but on a personal level, I consider it more fantasy. But then Joe told me there were a lot of like horror concepts in the game itself.
Man, you want to say something? Dark Souls? Oh, actually, Bloodborne has a really good concepts as well, as far as like it's fantasy.
Like a dark fantasy.
Yeah, it does it very well, obviously, because they're like From Software is amazing. Actually, they just released Dark Souls 3 trailer, which looks awesome.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, you should check it out.
I think I will. I didn't even know that was out. And the last one is Alice Madness Returns, and this kind of conforms more to like not a beautification, but a glamorous look at the horror genre, where things are bloody and they're definitely familiar enough, but it's not so much that they make us too uncomfortable. It almost has like a cool factor behind it, and it has this idea behind it where it's graphically interesting. So I think this is a different kind of horror, but I wanted to include it as well. Like, let me see if I can find. There are a few concepts in here that are a few of my all-time favorite like color palettes. Oh, here it is. So this top one with the saw through the fish, I don't know how well you can see it, but it has like this perfect mix of red hues and these light blue hues. And that's a good example of where it becomes less of this uncomfortable horror and more of this graphically interesting design. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I did a quick sketch, very quick one before we got the stream started. So I emailed it to myself, and I'm going to be kind of drawing over it and doing some work on it. But overall, we're going to talk about a few things of the horror genre, and I'm excited to kind of chat with you guys. Oh, the question. That's what we cut the stream off. The question of today's live stream is, what terrifies you the most? Like if you could think of either, even if it's a movie or something maybe not as specific, what movie was it? Or if it is something specific, what is it? I know I guess me and Joe will start us off really quick. Joe, do you want to say what your biggest terrifying fear is?
My biggest terrifying fear is probably Oh man, I have so many. No, I have a huge fear of well, as far as like creature design, the number one creature design I probably have to go with is The Thing from John Carpenter's film. That, but I also love the Dead Space series because of those creatures. It's just like the head on like the little feet, like the legs, like the way that it crawls is just so like gross to me. But I also don't like gruesome horror. Like I don't like Final Destination horror films because it's just too much. Or like Saw. Like I just feel like it's too much for me to get into.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess for me, as a kid, it was The Ring Girl. That terrified me as a child. And then in my teens and college years, it was the idea of being blinded and then thrown into the ocean. And now it's some random person being my house that I don't know who they are. And it became like very illogical, and it's kind of matured into like a logical fear over the years. All right, I'm going to switch over to my canvas so we can start drawing. And I'm sure you guys have some questions already, so we'll get going with that.
Oh, some people are Jake Scott says losing my toes.
Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh. Someone says exams.
That can be legit terrifying.
Well, we got some pretty awesome stuff about people are saying that they've found the Reckless deck really useful. Jordan Nelson says, "Hey Tim, thanks for showing off the Reckless deck on previous streams. I was able to snag one while I was at Gen Con this year, and I'm so stoked with how awesome it was."
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad. I feel like that artist needs to promote it more. Hold on, I'm closing my blinds.
I was like, where did you go? You sound like you're way far away. I'm curious as to how Gen Con was this year, because I know the date was moved it was moved to the previous month. I want to go next year for sure.
Yeah, it looked like a blast. But I was just saying how I think the artist that made them, I think he should do some more marketing for it, because I think it's a great idea that I really think, especially for like generating ideas quick, as concept artists, it's a cool little warm up, or even to do a solid piece from.
Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
It's just like really quiet. And I was like, did Tim just get stolen?
The stream's gonna be like every now and then I'll like go back to myself, and there'll be like someone standing behind me.
Oh man, that would be so. I think I'd be more creeped out at the fact that your camera would automatically turn on to your web camera.
Yeah,
that would be very creepy.
Yeah, like if I was switching between Photoshop files and I didn't even realize that it during like the quick 3 seconds you saw my face, there was someone behind me. You know what? We're giving away too many ideas. We might do some of this for the Halloween streams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So no more talkie.
Actually, I always thought about that. Like what do you do in those situations where, like, say you're talking to somebody over? Didn't they just do a movie on that horror film?
It was called Unfriended, and I kind of want to watch it.
Like, where you're just witnessing online like something happening, but you can't stop it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just hang up the call.
Oh, you grab a bucket of popcorn. I'm totally kidding. I don't know what I would do.
Oh, Alexis Mayfield says, I have a laundry chute in my room, and my greatest fear is that centipedes from my basement will crawl up and crawl on me in my sleep. I'm terrified of bugs.
Ooh.
Funny story. Before we had the house kind of bug proofed, I live in the room that's like next to the attic. And there were tons and tons of spiders and earwigs that would crawl into my room. And one night I was sleeping, and I felt I'm a very light sleeper, and I felt something crawl on me. So whatever it was, I grabbed it and I snatched it, and I looked at what it was, and I had caught the earwig in my finger, but only half of it, and I don't know where the other half went.
That's terrifying.
That is very gross, because I think that's another like thing where, like, if something crawls into my ear, like it starts to be like is there something in my head? Is it eating away at my brain? I don't know.
Yorks. Animorph reference.
Yeah,
I'm like, no
I was
one's
just
gonna get that.
I was like, wait a second.
Oh, look at that. My age is showing.
Really quick question about Doodle Art Battle. Your Doodle Art Battle is on an inconvenient time for me, us Europeans, to watch live. So I was looking for a recorded video and was sad I couldn't find one. Do you plan to upload it somewhere?
We might. I know we've talked about it, so we probably will. I just know it's more of like a fun thing, and it can definitely be a bit crazy and unstructured, but yeah, I think we will upload it somewhere. But if we do, I'll announce it on the Facebook page. But as of now, yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh, this is gross. Self-Made Geek says, my biggest nightmare came true 2 weeks ago. I collect expensive dolls, and my newest one was full of spider eggs. Ugh.
Actually, I'm a friend of spiders, so I don't know if that would creep me out.
Just like spider eggs, though? Like, have you ever turned over like an old piece of wood and it's just like littered with spider eggs?
See, I don't know. I don't have a thing against spiders. If it was like centipedes or something, yeah, I think that would freak me out more.
Oh, yeah, that'd be kind of just like if they were crawling around on it.
Yeah.
Ivan Monson says, I'm scared of the same things as Tim.
Yes. Oh, and I guess the reason why this even sparked this whole horror genre live stream is I watched the Babadook about 2 days ago, and it really kind of showed me that horror film doesn't have to be in poor taste. It doesn't have to be cliche, and it can have like these deep psychological terrors without the need of jump scares or gore porn. And it kind of excited me because I'm like, oh man, yeah, this is a genre I think that has so much potential, but it's just being kind of wasted because they know what works and it makes money. Like if you look at box office numbers, even movies that get horrible ratings like Ouija or Annabelle, they do super successfully financially, even with a really low budget. But I like the horror films that kind of take the time to push past just being like, it build up suspense, the music stops, and then the jump scare happens after you don't expect it at first. I don't know. I'm not too big of a fan of horror, but I can appreciate the ones that do take the time to make it more than just the cliche.
Oh man, I found some responses that will lead to future topics in this live stream, so I'm going to save those. Let me.
Oh yeah, get your notepad out.
Aaron, I wanted to go back and find this one. Tim, me and my girlfriend have been watching Face Off nonstop since last week. It's like an addiction to us now. How could you?
Don't tell me how it went yesterday.
It says, not just messing. We're grateful, really. It's been giving us a lot of our concepts, and ... I don't know where the other part of this is though.
And yeah, I thought they were gonna spoil it. I thought they were gonna say like, did you like that he went home or whatever? I haven't seen the episode that aired last night. Me and Joe and our other roommate Corinna are gonna probably watch it later today. So don't spoil it for us if you have seen it.
It says, and we want to try sculpting and attempting them ourselves.
Because I think the themes, like we said last week too, is how cool it is that you can take from themes that you wouldn't otherwise explore, and it's kind of like the map idea where it's territory that you haven't explored yet, and why not just jump in and see what's over there, and maybe, who knows, maybe you'll like some of that concept or that subject matter that you wouldn't have done normally. So yeah, I really do like Face Off.
Jay Donovan says, I'm claustrophobic, so being buried alive is a big one for me. That one is very freaky.
Yeah. I don't think anyone can be like, yeah, that wouldn't bother me.
Right. Unless you're a magician. Because don't they do that trick where they get like buried alive and then they're like, oh, all of a sudden I'm 5 miles away on top of this building. How did I get here?
Yeah, that's true.
Canarioko? Canarico? I think I'm pretty afraid of deep ocean, like deep, dark abyss kind of ocean. I used to have nightmares of being deep underwater and surrounded by enormous monsters.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, I can't watch even like deep water documentaries, I get like really uncomfortable, like sweaty palm uncomfortable. So I know exactly how you feel.
Although he says spiders and clowns freak me the hell out.
I've never had a clown fear, but I can totally recognize why that would be scary though. Do you have a clown fear, Joe?
No, just because I know that they're human. I think what freaks me out more is when things aren't human. You know,
Yeah.
like that's why I think I absolutely dislike like the ring girl, like you were saying, because it's
Ugh.
human, but at the same time it's kind of what's the word? It's like
Supernatural.
supernatural astral projection, ghostly thing, and it's like, can you even hurt that? Like
Oh yeah.
that's like little girls that are like ghosts. Like that's like you can't hurt that, so it's not as it's like we were talking about earlier with video games where like in Dead Space you can blow stuff up, so it's not as scary. It's that same idea with like the little ghost girls that you can't really hurt them, so it's more terrifying.
And I think Joe, you'll agree on this on why PT was so good is because you literally had to like solve a puzzle and you couldn't. Whenever something scary happened, there was nothing to do but react emotionally. Like there was no like you can shoot it or you can take it down. It was just that's terrifying.
Right.
For those of you who don't know what PT is, it's that Silent Hills demo that unfortunately the game got canceled, but the demo became like this phenomenon in the gaming community, how it was like a return to horror for video games. And I admittedly, it's really hard for me to watch it, let alone play it.
Sarah says, I hate the dark. Not being able to see creeps me out.
Yep. I think everyone has some level of fear of the darkness because then, and here's why. Well, maybe this is an opinion, but I think because then that allows our imagination to take over and then we create the terror in the shadows. Even though if there's nothing in the shadows, our mind is already creating stuff for us to be scared by.
I actually really like the dark.
What?
Yeah. I like pitch black because at that point I'm not sitting there thinking like what's in the darkness with me. I'm thinking I'm in the darkness with something else. It's and I think that happened because like I sat and I watched Batman and I was like, man, he isn't afraid of the dark. Or like Bane, you know, and he's like, I was really born in the darkness. You know, you're just like, that's a really good way of thinking about it. Like it's not as scary when you're like, I'm in the dark too.
You should have told me that, Joe. And I'm gonna like do practical jokes where some nights I'm just gonna like switch off all the electricity in the house.
Oh, please do.
And then like make noises.
I want to see how well I know the house.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be a challenge too. Well, don't kill me, I guess. All of a sudden I'm getting like hit with a bat. Like, Joe, dang, gosh, come on.
People are probably like, what the heck?
I don't. For those of you who don't know, Joe and I are roommates, and we live also with his girlfriend, Corinna. And we're getting 2 more artists that are going to be moving in the next month and a half. So we kind of joke that this is like an art house, and we're kind of like in an incubator where we're growing as artists together.
Yeah, and I'm a bit of I did a lot of martial arts in college, so like for a while there, it's practicing a lot of that stuff. And I remember in college, I accidentally flipped one of my roommates when they did practical jokes like that to me. So I don't joke around anymore.
I don't do jokes.
Yeah, not practical jokes. Oh, Jordan says Gen Con was fantastic. This is my 3rd consecutive year attending, and I think there may have been more people this year than the other 2 I have gone to. Plus, Tony D. Terrelzi, Spiderwick illustrator, was there, so I was geeking out pretty hard.
Ooh, I know the Spiderwick. Yeah, if you guys haven't gone to a convention, I would do it, especially a bigger one. It's really cool. Just the atmosphere alone is really accepting, and I feel like you're able to relate to not only the people, but the subject matter and the artists that are behind the artist alley. And go to Artist Alley. If you go to a big convention, try to go to Artist Alley, because I think that's where you can meet people that might be on that same level of producing work and maybe kind of in a similar path that you are on yourself. Oh, Joe, I am echoing so bad I can barely concentrate. Yeah.
Are you still echoing?
Maybe? Nope. Nope. Should be good. I can tolerate that. Really quick, so I don't even know, Joe, how well can you see what I'm drawing?
I can see it.
Okay, because I was working with so many dark values. So when working with a horror concept, I find it easier to pull from darker bases. So rather than working on a neutral gray, I worked with a slightly darker value of gray. And then that way I'm able to pull form out, but I'm leaving still some of it to the imagination. I want it kind of fade in with the darkness. And you see that a lot with the horror genre. Now, I'm not going to show you the reference images because I don't want to actually scare you guys. I know some of these images are quite frankly terrifying. And if you need reference, and I'm not saying that you should, just be prepared for what you get. But if you just go to Google and type in like jump scares or horror GIFs, there's a lot of really creepy moments that you can find, and try to recognize like, why is this scary? Why would this be terrifying? And well, if it's a GIF, you'll know why. But just the idea of it, and usually it plays off of contrast with either the eyes and the face being like really pale, and then maybe the eyes are like pure black, and the mouth might be black, and like the teeth are stained black, and that contrast is very unsettling. So when working with horror, I try to keep that in mind of keep my contrast at a high if possible.
Alex M. Rocks 10 says, when I was little, my biggest fear was being tied down, covered in ants, and then eating me alive.
Dang, that is specific.
That's very specific. So something that I think that we were going to probably talk about was Kimberly Van Kampen says, there's a horror movie in which someone's eyes gets pierced by a wooden stick, and it is close up, and that freaks me out.
Oh, yes.
In the genre of like gore versus like suspense, psychological, you know?
Yeah. So then for this, there is a market for it. I'm not saying that it's not there, and it's definitely like a very profitable market, but I consider those movies more on they've actually been called like gore porn or torture porn, where people go to those movies and they get cringy, like they like feeling grossed out a little bit, but there usually isn't lasting terror, or at least for me. When I was talking to Joe, how it's relative, because for me that kind of movie or that kind of showcase of like arms being ripped off or someone's head getting sliced open, like that doesn't resonate with me as much as like The Ring Girl or watching The Shining or even Babadook. There were moments in it that really resonated with me, and it has like a longer term effect. But like I said, that's not true for everyone, because even when I was talking to Joe, you can talk about the one that got to you.
Sorry, I blanked out for a second. I was reading the questions.
Oh, so what was the horror film that was gory that actually got to you? I think it was Final Destination with the
yeah, Final Destination, like the like people getting dismembered, and like I have that like phantom limb thing where like you see it happen and then you're like, my arm, like I can't feel my arm right now, and it just things go numb because my brain tells me like this person lost their arm, so now you must feel what it like. You empathize with it at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But or like Final Destination, when like people get like stabbed in the head and they actually show like the going through the head, like can't do it. Nope.
You ever like try to force yourself to look at it from a visual effects aspect? That's usually what I try to do, to be like not grossed out by it, but it's really hard for me to do it.
Yeah, that's what I started doing.
The makeup application here.
Yeah, that's what I started doing when I watched the behind the scenes footage of Alien. The scene with the chest burster, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. how they did that. And so the thing is with the newer movies now, everything's digital. So it's kind of like, oh, well, it's a 3D model, and they just split the 3D model in half.
Well, you know, the new Alien movie comes out in 2 years, and apparently they're going to go back to prosthetics again.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to have some CG, but it won't be like crazy.
Like the new thing, I think, was a bit overwhelming with CG.
Actually, you know, I wanted there's a couple movies that come to mind, and this is going to sound like really weird, but there was one with I think it was Ben Savage. It was like The Monster Under My Bed or something like that.
Oh, I saw that.
And like when I was a kid, that scared me so much. And then I watched it like last year, and I was like, no wonder why this movie scared the crap out of me. At the end of the movie, they blow up one of the monsters with like a light gun or something, and I was like, it's like graphic and gruesome. It's not like oh, he just explodes into ash. It's like, no, he like explodes into a bunch of guts and stuff. I'm just like, that makes sense of why this terrified me. Or we used to watch X-Files. Like my family used to watch X-Files, and I remember there was one about like this thing that lived in rooms, but it was like a chameleon, and it would shed its skin, but it'd also be kind of invisible. That terrified me.
I also think I can see the effect of like watching horror stuff as a kid, and I think that does stick with you through life almost. Because I think I watched Shining too young. I watched, you know, that I'm sure none of you know what this is, but the Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night, like that was terrifying. That is not a kid's movie. I don't care what it's marketed as. And then I think about that too much. I think as kids we soak up information like a sponge, and it means a lot to us as a kid, any information that we get. And if we see like horror stuff, I think that really resonates with us. Like Goosebumps resonated with me a lot too. That's why I'm kind of excited that I'm doing a horror thing today. I never draw horror, but I always find it really fun to do.
There's so many good ones in here.
Horrors?
Just like, yeah, just like what people are saying. Christy McAfee says, terrified of worst case scenarios, bugs, psychotic killers, and demons.
Worst case scenarios.
Worst case scenarios, like probably disaster scenarios, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Like zombies.
Or I wonder if it's like a school project. What's the worst case scenario we don't get done?
Where did the other one? Oh, my childhood fear was the monster from the movie The Blob. I was always afraid it would come under my door at night and consume me. That would be pretty terrifying.
I've never seen it, so I guess I'm not familiar.
Do you know what a gelatinous cube is?
Yes.
It's essentially, the Blob is a gelatinous cube that consumes an entire city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of like one of those fears of suffocation.
Yeah.
Where it just like eats you and then you just suffocate and die. Jay Rinaldi says, nice, Joe. I like the dark too. One of my favorite things to do is make it pitch black in the bathroom and then go for a long shower. So calming and refreshing. Isn't it? It's so nice because you're just like, you just zone out.
That sounds terrifying.
Or like if you turn off all the lights and you like fill up your bathtub and you just kind of go underwater. Like, but not your face, obviously, because you can't stay underwater then. But like, you just put your ears underwater and it's just like pitch black.
Oh, that I do like. I've done that.
Viva says, I can watch any horror till it's not Japanese or with ghosts. What about Japanese ghosts? The combination.
Well, like The Grudge. It didn't get to me as much as The Ring, but I will say the first time you saw that girl crawl down the stairs, yeah, that definitely stuck with me a bit.
That reminds me of, was it Scary Movie 3 or
Was it what?
I think it was Scary Movie 4, The Grudge. They had the Grudge scene.
Yes.
And the little kid's on top of the banister, and he's like, they're speaking in Japanese, but it's not really Japanese. It's just them saying Japanese words like Kawasaki.
Okay.
But like the subtitles read like they're saying words.
That's terribly racist.
Yeah. Have you heard of the parasitic fungus that infects ant brains and turns them into zombies? I'm scared of becoming one of those zombie ants.
Yes, actually, that's what The Last of Us was based off of. That parasite is I believe it's a fungus. I don't know the scientific name for it, but the Naughty Dog talked about how that inspired the whole idea of a zombie. Rather than it being an undead, it was more of a logical fear of this happens in nature. Now imagine it on a larger scale, where if the fungus were able to take over a human brain rather than an ant brain. And actually, it's not just ants. There are other insects that they take over. And then it does do exactly what The Last of Us concepts played off of it kind of overtaking the head. And then it becomes like a spore-like releaser. And then the animal dies. And then the fungus lives on. And it's maybe that's why I like Last of Us so much, is because they really paid attention to something that happens in nature and then reflected it in a new way in their game, and I really like that.
So many. Well, apparently, Jill says, if you can draw a box in perspective, you can draw a person in perspective because a person can fit inside a box. Joe Chico 2015. This is my life motto now. Jordan Nelson. I'm terrified of the idea of large rubber tire rolling around, shaking furiously and murdering people.
Oh, that movie. Don't see it.
Paul Dark and Geeky says, making important life decisions is scary.
Dang, logical fears. What up?
The fungus apparently is called cordyceps. The more you know. Doo-doo-doo. Batman was buried alive and he got out. So did
Uma Thurman.
Yeah, so did Uma Thurman.
Actually, wasn't Ryan Reynolds in that Buried movie? Actually, I don't know if he got out or not.
I was reading on Tumblr the other day about how to get out of being buried alive, like how to actually do it. I was like, I guess this is useful, but I don't know if it works or not. I don't want to try.
Mythbusters bunked it. You can't do it.
Oh man, that's disappointing.
And you know, when you watch that show, or I don't know if you've ever watched that show, but you always are like, you know, maybe they didn't do the experiment right, or you always like want to suspend your disbelief that it could happen. So I still want to believe that it could happen.
Yeah, or I'm wondering if they just didn't do it right, because I know that they did something about that with like ninjas.
Like, there's been a few episodes that they did call themselves out on not being accurate, but that one made a lot of sense. Or like have you ever heard the theory that if you are a very heavy-set person, that if you get shot, the bullet will like get lodged in the fat or whatever?
No.
Oh, well, that like if you're a heavy-set person, you can take a bullet better than a thinner person could, and that was debunked too.
Huh. That's weird. I know. I'm wondering if muscle would take a bullet more though.
I don't know. They didn't test that
because it's more dense. Probably not because it's a
probably
bullet.
not. Yeah. The more that I went through the episode, I was like, yeah, that's probably right. Like it's a bullet, you know.
Jill says or asks, you once said you listened to the type of music that fits the character you were painting at the time. What music fits some of your swordplay characters? I'm curious.
I don't know if I want to reveal the playlist. think it would actually give too much of the character away that I don't want to give out until the book's released. I will say, though, generality would be like Tracy, who's more of a, we'll say, vivacious streetwalker character. So if you guys are doing characters that are more like exuberant, and in her case, she's more of like a tough, colorful person, then definitely have music that reflects that. So for her, I definitely have like really fast, upbeat music. Where like another character I have, it's more melancholy and slow and a lot of like low bass cello. And having the music, I think, match what you're drawing can definitely put you more in a state of thinking similar to that character, which in my opinion helps.
Jay Donovan asks, have you ever experienced a dream involving sleep paralysis where you are in a nightmare and have to struggle to wake up?
No, can't say I have.
I haven't, but I've known people who have, and to me, that's pretty terrifying. Or I had a dream like a couple months ago when I was on medication because of my sickness or whatever, and I had a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream, and I kept waking up, and that to me was also kind of scary because I would wake up and then I would still be in that dream, and then I'd wake up again and I'd be like, okay, well, I'm just dreaming, so wake up again, and I couldn't wake up. So it's kind of like that, but it was just like in my dream I knew I was dreaming, so I kept telling myself to wake up, and eventually I did wake up. But that was kind of scary towards the last couple ones where I was probably like 6 dreams in, and I was like, why am I not waking up?
Yeah, it would be kind of terrifying. Oh, have you ever had the teeth falling out dream?
Oh yeah.
I have that a lot, and that is terrifying, especially when you read what it means. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, there's that one, and then the crashing into stuff,
Oh yeah.
like just hitting stuff. Like I remember being like, or having dreams about plane crashing and like car crashes and stuff. Ugh. I actually had a dream once. We drove from Illinois to California. I guess we'd just been in the car for too long. But I had a dream that I was driving down the highway, and I looked over and I saw someone crash their car, but like flip it, and I was like witnessing to it, and it was the most terrifying thing ever. Like I got up and I just like couldn't function properly because my brain saw that image so well. And I don't know why, because I've never seen like a car crash before.
It is creepy.
Namita asks, how many hours a day should you practice drawing?
This is something that Psycher talks about, and I totally agree with him after really thinking about it. It doesn't matter. As long as you practice every day and you force yourself to get in a habit where it becomes habitual for you to draw every day, that's what matters more. Because if you just spend like 8 hours one day and then the rest of the week you don't do it at all, I think it's a bad habit. I think you need to get into a routine because through practice, it just becomes easier with like muscle memory, and every day then it's not like you're having to, you almost don't need warm-up sketches if you're doing it every day because your warm-up sketch was done in less than 24 hours ago. So it's like this continual process of not needing to get back into the swing. You're already into the swing. You're constantly swinging. But if I did have to give like a what would I recommend to continue getting better at like a faster rate, see, even that, I feel like it depends on how much you're analyzing what you're doing and how constructively you're looking at your stuff and trying to make it better and looking at tutorials to push subject matters that you're not familiar with. So I would say try to maybe at least try to get like 2 hours a day if it fits your schedule. And minimum though, draw every day, regardless if it's a 5-minute sketch or if it's an 8-hour sit down illustration. Try to draw every day.
Pam, the one who joined us earlier that we had to remove, sorry about that, says, I'm a girl. I watch way too many true crime shows. So walking anywhere by myself after dark, if any guy starts walking behind me, I always get antsy. I walk with one headphone off my ear and in keys in hand and quickly cross the street. That's just being aware of your surroundings, which I commend you for because a lot of people don't do that.
No, I think that's smart.
Yeah, you should never what is it? It's like people like pull up their headphone, or they either have their headphones in or they like talk on their phone, which is something that you shouldn't do, unless you're like in a real panic and you should call 911. But like the reason why is because it's more distracting to you to be talking on the phone to somebody, and I've read that that's like when people take advantage, is when you're distracted like that. So good for you, Pam. Ivan says, maybe the stranger in Tim's house is someone that needs a portfolio review.
He just follows me like with portfolio in hand, doesn't say anything.
I highly recommend not sneaking into our house to get a portfolio review.
Well, I'm sure I would be like, hello, like you're dressed in like all bloody clothes and welcome to Wisconsin. How are you? Do you want a glass of water? Joe's like, Tim, no.
Don't open the door.
Close the door. Close the door. Don't let him in.
Dave T says, Joe in the dark is like, I'm not locked in the dark with you. It's you who's locked in the dark with me. Exactly.
Oh, what's that from?
That's Rorschach from The Watchmen.
Thank you.
Who is like one of my biggest heroes.
Yeah, I like Watchmen a lot.
Ooh, that's a good question. Do you think monsters without eyes or faces are scarier than those with them?
Ooh, good question. I do think there's a terrifying feature of not showing. So I think I would go with no eyes.
I'm trying to think of... Because Pan's Labyrinth, that design to me is so freaky.
Yeah, that's
the ones with the eyes and the hands.
The Pale Man.
Yeah, like... That's so... it's freaky, but I don't know if I... Well, yeah, it's scary, though. You know?
That's terrifying.
Especially if I saw that in real life.
I want to point out, I watched that movie being told it was like Harry Potter. So then I watched it by myself, and it legit scared the hell out of me. I loved it, though. I love Pan's Labyrinth. I think it's one of the best movies ever made.
Diana Chris says, I have always been scared of people walking/running after me. Even when I was a kid, I would get extremely anxious playing with something as simple as tag. Kind of weird, I guess.
No, I can understand that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a huge fear for a lot of people. Is like, especially like dreams and nightmares, is just being chased.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of zombie dreams, or nightmares technically, where I'm running and then I trip and fall and then I get eaten. The thing is, I don't wake up right away. It's like all of a sudden it's like 10 zombies on top of me and then they're eating my limbs and then I wake up. You know?
Oh, weird.
Ever had a zombie dream?
No, but I've been killed multiple times.
Ah.
But it's not zombies. It's usually like just a legit person.
Louise Hampton says, Joe, watch Supernatural, then you'll freaking hate clowns. What's funny is I was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago, or a month or two ago, and I was watching Supernatural on the TV, and there was this guy who, like, he was a police officer or something, and his like face started peeling off, and it was really gross and disturbing to me because it's like he was shaving, and then all of a sudden like a part of his face like peeled off, and he like pulled it off. And I was like, oh, that's so gross. And then he just like started bleeding everywhere and then disintegrated into blood. Or liquefied into blood.
Hospital.
Yeah, and I was like, why am I watching this in the hospital?
I think that's the funny part of it all. Like, why are they showing that?
Right? Kate QVQ says, do you guys like horror movies? If so, what are your favorites?
I would say I'm a little biased just because of the generalities with horror film, but I will say every October I only allow myself to watch horror movies, and I do this every year. and I think it's for me to want to appreciate the horror genre better. But sometimes I feel like every year I get more annoyed with horror just because I'm like, oh my gosh. Like you can not only see everything coming, but you can see what movies stole from other movies, like the same, if not idea, the same like setup and the same punch. And it does become repetitive over a while. But I will say it, there are a lot of good horror movies out there that I enjoy. I think Babadook now became one of the ones I really like. I think Shining was really good. Black Swan, debatable if that's horror, but I think that one, I guess that's more of a psychological thriller, but that one was really good. And then I do have a guilty pleasure for like horror icons. So like any of the Freddy movies, any Jason, any Halloween, Michael Myers. I do think there's more of a fun aspect when watching those movies. Obviously there is a horror element, but a lot of the times I feel like you end up cheering for the villain, especially with like the sequels, and that's where I think they become more fun to watch. But yeah, I would say those would be my favorites. And then The Ring. I think The Ring is my all-time favorite just because of how much it resonated with me.
I don't really have a favorite horror movie because I don't like that genre at all. I mean, my thought process on that is like I'm worried enough about life as it is. So why would I want to go watch something that would scare the crap out of me even more? But as far as like concept designs and stuff, I mean, I want to say the Thing to me is just actually no. You know what used to scare the crap out of me is I was about 8 years old and I watched The Predator, and it wasn't. It was scary, but it wasn't scary to the point where it was just kind of like cool scary. And I just remember watching it and being like terrified at such a young age.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't afraid of the Predator. I was afraid of what he was doing to people. Because I thought he looked really cool. But it was like him ripping out someone's spine, or like when the guy's chest explodes from the laser beam. I was just like, oh, this is scary. But then I remember seeing the Predator and being like, he looks so cool. Where did Brandon's come? Oh, there it is. Brandon says, them eyes though.
Right? This one's a looker. He's eyeing you down. Oh god, I feel like my brain just like opened a file cabinet full of like, what are eye puns, Tim, that are like eye jokes that you could pull out? I won't say any of them.
Matt says, when starting a personal project, do you pick the medium that suits the idea, or an idea that suits a medium you want to work in?
Pick the medium that suits the idea. Oh, that's a good question. I would say both. I think there's times where I specifically will draw something traditionally that I would not draw digitally just because of the format of it being traditional and the look that I can get with a pencil. But I don't think it should matter. I think that's more of like an artist preference. I don't think I want eyebrows on this guy. We'll call him Jerry.
Jerry. Someone, where'd he go? Nick says, Google's Babadook. Oh no, this is a whole big pile of nope to me.
I'm telling you guys, though, it's not like a jump scare. Well, there are two moments I will say that I actually could register as jump scare, I guess, but like you see it coming and I think that's what the Google search is probably. Yeah, that's scary. I'll give you that. But if you like the genre of horror, I would go see that movie.
It's just funny because the other day when you were watching it, I walked into the room and it was like the scene where she's laying in bed and like the thing like comes out of like
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry, spoilers. And I was just like, nope. Just walked out of the room.
Joe literally walked into like the scariest part of the movie in terms of like visually scary.
Brandon says, did you know that the most likely apocalypse is due to zombies?
What Who made that statistic, Brandon?
Yeah, where are you getting this information, Brandon?
Although I will say I don't think it's not possible. I think there is a possibility for it. I just think if there was an end of the world, it will be countries blowing each other up.
Yeah. Or a meteor crashing and killing us.
Dun dun dun.
No,
but then Bruce Willis will gather a team and destroy the meteorite.
right.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think the most plausible zombie is like the rage zombie.
Yeah.
That like just due to infection just makes people like super rage induced.
I think The Last of Us did a pretty good job with that. Or did you ever play Last of Us?
I didn't play it. I watched a bit of a playthrough. The clickers, or what you're talking about, the parasitic like mushroom head things.
Yeah. That's another reason that game works so well is because when you hear a clicker, not only do you get scared because of just the presence of them, but two, they're really hard to kill. So you know how in some horror games, like I did beat Dead Space, and I like Dead Space, but I will say after like the first 7 hours, you become numb to a lot of the creatures, and I guess the jump scares still got to me, but like the creatures themselves, you could kill right away. And it didn't take much effort, especially when you upgrade your suit and your guns to a point where it does become more easy. But in Last of Us, it never felt like easy to kill a horde of clickers.
Oh man, I just had it in my head. Oh, okay, something that like I don't know if it's like super scary to me, but something that like puts me on edge is audiobooks that are Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh yeah,
like in 7th and 8th grade, I remember being in literature class listening to these and just being like I remember the whole class just being super quiet, and it was just kind of eerie because you'd hear like the Telltale Heart, where like it's just like they start playing the heart sound of like when it's like in the boards and stuff, and you're like, oh, it's so intense.
But you know why that probably does work so well? Because then it leaves the imaginations to do a lot of the visuals.
Yeah, which we talked about that earlier, right? Where what's more appealing of like showing the actual killing, or when you're doing like Hitchcock, where you're not actually seeing the person get stabbed. Like what's more terrifying?
Yeah, no, I totally think it's more scary what we don't see. Because then we create the terror. And I think it's because it's the terror of the unknown. Like, what is it? And then our mind will like jump to a whole bunch of things that it probably isn't. But it's just terrifying not knowing.
Chio wants to know, what sound would this creature make? Please let us hear.
Okay, give me a few minutes to think of that. Usually Joe's better with this kind of voice acting stuff.
I imagine that this creature right here, like since its face is kind of decayed, it really doesn't have that good of a tongue. So like if you hold your tongue out but you like were to inhale, so it'd be like that's the kind of noise it would make.
I like that.
That'd be so scary to hear that in the dark. And then just see that.
I always like minimalistic sound noises, so like I almost am picturing like weird little noises.
Or the noise of like distortion when like that like pinging noise.
Oh yeah.
That is so, it's like that noise and the noise of just like dead silence in a film where it's just like you don't hear anything. It's just quiet. And you're like, there should be noise here. But and you're like waiting for a noise, but there's no noise.
Or did you watch Requiem for a Dream?
I've watched the ending of it.
Pretty much that the soundtrack makes people uncomfortable. Or at least made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's what or Steinsick says. What makes movies scary to me is not usually the design or colors, but the music and ambiance. That's very true.
Totally.
That's what sells a horror movie.
what was that weird movie I was watching like a month ago? Oh, the warm. Oh shoot. I think it's called The Warm Color of Your Body's Tears. Let me double check that. But pretty much the reason this movie made me so uncomfortable was the music was so pitching and so sporadic that it made me incredibly uncomfortable while watching it. And I think music has such a strong effect on movies that people don't even realize. Like I think the best movies not only have like a good story, good writing, good visuals, but then it also has a good soundtrack. And it doesn't have to mean like, you know, words and music. It just like the composing and the way it's presented, and that can be just terrifying if done right in a horror movie.
Okay, I'm gonna pop around a little bit. Oh no, my poster's falling. No, my poster fell. Elias Santos says, "What would you say as an artist going to college? Would you move to a new area where art has a thriving community, LA or San Diego, or would you go to a program that might cost less but is located in a relatively isolated area?"
That's a good question, and I don't think that there's an answer to that is like one's right, one's wrong. I think a lot of it depends on circumstance and the artist that you are going to school with. Like I went to a local college in AI Schaumburg in Chicago, or near Chicago, Illinois. And while I didn't think the quality of the education was that great, I do think the people that I met were fantastic. And it gave me the connections and the networking that I needed to get a job. And that's what, it's hard for me to answer that because I think, in my personal opinion, I think it would be better to go to like the LA school or the San Diego one, the one that has a lot of jobs available in the area, so that you could get an internship to one of those, or like the possibility of that isn't that far-fetched. Where getting an internship in an area where there isn't many game companies, it does become limiting. So I don't think there's a right or wrong, but I will say it comes down to circumstance, which is kind of unfortunate if you're trying to make this decision right now. And just know you make the path that you want. So if you eventually want to work at, let's say, Riot or Blizzard, you just set the path to get to there eventually, regardless of what your beginning stages are like. Eventually the end goal is the same.
Alpha Booster says, "I think scary-looking creatures are pulled off good when they add extra limbs or or other features rather than missing parts. Also, do you prefer the fast, smart zombies or slow and dumb?"
Oh man, the fast ones definitely scare me more. I think the slow ones are more fun because then it becomes very logical of like, how would I deal with this if this did happen? And like watching Walking Dead or stuff like that, like you can picture yourself in that moment and what you would do and where you would hide out. Where the runners, I don't know what we would do as a society to stop it. Where walkers, I feel like, is more controllable, but runners, that especially if they're smart, yeah, that definitely is more of like a creepy factor. Where the slow ones are more of like a fun factor.
Yeah, definitely. Like, which ones would you rather deal with? Obviously the slow and dumb ones. But which one do you like prefer as far as like watching in a movie? I like the fast, smart zombies in the sense that it actually makes the character struggle. Whereas when it's like slow and dumb in mass is scary, you know? But so is fast. Fast and dumb are also very scary, but like fast and smart, that's, I think, it's scary in a sense of like, are you talking Night of the Living Dead where they can wield guns? Because to me, that's kind of like, to me that's dumb. I don't like that. But when they're like smart in the sense where they know where to go, you know, like they know that this door is locked, so they're gonna go around. That's kind of scary, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I also find it terrifying, the idea of like something getting its arm ripped off and not caring. It still wants its food, so it doesn't care. Like, it doesn't feel pain at that point. That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what the best example, like what's your favorite zombie, I guess.
Warm bodies.
I'm a real big fan of Nicholas Hoult.
Fan of no, I just like the idea of you're still conscious after you die and you're a zombie, but like you're dumb in a sense, but you're still in there and you still can feel it, just you're not able to control it really. I do like Nicholas Hoult though. I think he's a good actor.
It's weird. Wasn't he in that movie called About a Boy?
Yep.
And he's like super young.
Yep.
And so is Tonks, right? From Harry Potter?
That I'm not sure of.
I think she's the girl from that. I'm not sure though. Ivan Monson says, "Hey Tim, look behind you."
I actually hesitated at first.
All right. What if I was down there?
You know what I actually did? I looked at, you know how you can like adjust your focus, and I looked at the reflection on my computer screen before I turned around.
Christy McAvee says, so I'm in an AP art class in high school, and the class mostly focuses on gallery art. It's great, but I'm questioning if the class is worth it since it's focused on gallery art and modern art. Do you think it's worth it?
I would say I'm very passionate about this subject matter as well, because I do think there is importance in learning gallery art and the idea of what is art. And I think as artists, we can kind of choose if we want to go more toward like a commercial art field or more of like a fine art field. So I think it's good to appreciate the fine arts, but I don't think like having an entire class dedicated to it. I think it should cover both. But just know there is importance to the idea of the art being more than just the technical skills or the finished canvas. Sometimes it's the thought that goes in behind the piece, or not even sometimes. I would say for me, the art that really gets to me is the art that the idea is greater than the finished product, and that's what I can get behind.
I'd say high school, college version of me would be like, no, like don't, like it's not worth it. But I think in the last like 5-6 years, I've grown to appreciate that the gallery art, and I say that in quotations, because it makes you appreciate and really observe what the artist is actually going through or what they're trying to tell or what's really going on in the piece. Whereas in high school and college, I was very like, not everything is art because I was so focused on technical skill. And I like to bounce back and forth between those two, where it's like, okay, I want to find a happy medium as far as my artwork goes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Andrea says, oh God, I have a fear of looking out of the windows when it's dark outside. And guess what? I just turned my head to the window and a cat ran past it. I jumped a little. I do have to say, because you leave the windows open upstairs at night, like the blinds, you don't close the blinds. And so like if I'm like looking in the mirror brushing my teeth, I'm half expecting a little face to be in the windows, but it's on the second story. So it's like, to me, that would probably get me. So I'd be like, something is like dead floating in the sky. Benedict says, hi, Tim. Good news. The new tablet came. Took some hours to get it running again, but I have a working tablet again.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
Artist Mike J says, Tim, which school did you go to in Schaumburg and what year did you graduate? Because I think we went to the same school.
I went to the Art Institute in Schaumburg, Illinois, and then I graduated in 2011.
Dave T says, I would rather fight with a zombie than hold a thin-legged spider. Really? Like a daddy longlegs, even though they're not poisonous or dangerous at all? In fact, they're like more helpful than they are harmful. You'd rather fight a zombie? I would not want to fight a zombie over holding a daddy longlegs.
Yeah, I have no problem with spiders, so that would be no problem.
Ivan says, I think that Jerry lives in the jacuzzi hole. Oh man, wouldn't that be terrifying if, like, because there's that little room back there where the sub pump is or whatever?
I was half expecting to find a body when we removed the 13 tons of dirt in the basement. It's like the perfect hiding spot for a dead body.
It really was.
It really
was.
was.
Pond.
Missed opportunity, am I right?
Yeah, I feel like there's something underneath that pond in the back.
That is true. We do have an abandoned pond that is suspicious.
It's like the pond is essentially a hole dug with a tarp on top of it, and then I guess they put water on it, but the water's gone, so now it's just a bunch of grass and stuff above it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely makes you double take. Question.
Sydney Kruger says, I get told my name seems horror movie inspired.
Say that again?
Sydney Kruger says, I get told my name seems horror movie inspired.
I can see why. Like living on Elm Street, I'm sure they never hear the end of
it. Sorry, I'm thinking about that Face-Off episode from the last season. The guy's talking about Chucky.
Oh, we won't dive into that. He did create Chucky, though.
I don't know. Do people find dolls terrifying?
I can, to a sense, yeah.
I guess there's something about dolls that I don't find terrifying. I think it's because it's so small, and I feel like I could just break it. I think it'd be scary if I couldn't break it, though.
I think I'd be more scared of, like, why did it move?
Yeah, that would be pretty freaky.
All right, let's see here. We got about 15 minutes left of the stream. I just kind of had fun with this one. I don't know if you guys had specific questions on digital painting, but just know when you're doing digital horror concepts, I would play more into not going overboard. So not like having blood and gore everywhere, and sticking toward more like small elements that you can focus on and try to make creepy. And then I normally go with the scapegoat of making everything too dark. So you can see with the difference between 1 and 2, how I'm trying to pull out the forms more so it has some bit more of a form, like especially if I was to give this concept to like an art director to eventually be modeled for a video game or something. I can't have it be too, I guess, implied shape and form. I would have to pull out areas that would show like, you know, it has a very humanistic proportion nature to it. It just has a lot of these abnormalities with like the face and the skin being stretched out just a tad bit too much, and making it read legible, I guess, would be a big thing. But if this was more for like a poster illustration for promoting like the movie or a poster art, then you could have fun blurring some things out or smudging areas of the edge to make it out of focus, to let the imagination kind of fill in the gaps. But yeah, if you have any last questions, now would be the time to get them in, and we'll try to answer as many as we can in the next 15 minutes.
Divine Kataroshi says, is it weird that I have the Cintiq 13 HD and my old Intuos 5, but I prefer the Intuos over my more comfortable screen tablet? I hear so many artists talking that Cintiqs are better quality products, but I feel like this is just a waste of money.
I do think that it is very personal preference for an artist. Like for me, I have a Cintiq and I never use it. I always use my little Wacom Intuos tablet, and I can see the benefits of working with a Cintiq though, especially for doing like line arts or things where you're focusing on uh, a very fluid look to it. But when it is more organic, and like you can have like for this, I would much rather do this on a tablet than I would a Cintiq. But that's because of the way I've kind of taught myself to work in digital art. Now, if I only had a Cintiq, I'm sure I would have taught myself how to work just as comfortably in that. So I think it could be because you're new to it, you might not be comfortable with it yet. So I wouldn't write it off yet. But if you tried out for a while and you're like, this really just isn't for me, then I would consider returning it and getting your money back, because then it might be like how I have mine, where it just kind of sits there and it's not doing much good, and I'm not benefiting from it in any way.
I really want to try out that 27-inch HD.
That's true. I do want to try out the new one though. I think if you have the smaller one, I do think it has some problems with it. I think it needs to be a certain screen size for it to really justify buying a Cintiq. So I wouldn't recommend the 13 HD Cintiq, but I did try the 27 and the 23 in Australia, and those were justifiable for buying. Like I could see myself drawing in that every day and feeling comfortable.
I'm going to run to the bathroom really fast, but I'm going to ask this question first.
Okay.
She says, any tips on how to create a group of artist friends? I want my friends to give helpful feedback on my work, not just saying, wow, that's nice, good job.
All right, you go to the bathroom.
All right.
Oh, it's digital. Okay. So this is a good question that I think I get asked a lot, because I feel like I've found a few groups of friends that I can rely on getting critique or just talking art with, or even drawing with that night. And it forms naturally. If you want to find people, just keep posting your stuff out there and send emails to artists and just, try to get their feedback on stuff. And you'll be surprised by how your community of friends grow. It's very organic. And I think that if you try to force it to happen, it won't. But if you just kind of let it happen, it becomes a lot easier. I will say, like what you said, the worst thing that you can get in a critique is someone that just always says that's good or wow. It's good to get some positive feedback just for that reinforce, I'm drawing and it's good that I'm trying to pursue my skill level. But to really grow as an artist, you need someone to point out what looks wrong or what looks off or what could be worked upon or improved upon. And not having that can be very frustrating, because then you're just surrounded with compliments and it's actually doing you harm, because then you feel like you can settle on that skill level, which is not something you want to do. Perfect timing, Joe.
Sorry. I've been drinking a lot of water.
Oh, you made the switch to water.
Yeah, right? I've just been drinking Gatorade lately, people. That's actually one of those things where, like, I have a fear of my teeth actually falling out. Not just in a dream. Just drinking way too much Gatorade.
Gatorade, Joe's biggest fear.
Yeah. Bad Bits Bobby says, my biggest fear would be if one of my parents found my sketchbook. What are you drawing?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is going to sound really ridiculous, but as soon as I post this image online, if my mom sees it, I'll probably get a text message or a phone call being like, is everything okay? Like, why'd you draw that? I don't know if I like that.
Did anyone say anything about the meat one?
I don't know if my mom knew it was meat, because I kind of implied it was meat. I didn't like go full out. Like there were purples and stuff in it. So she said she liked it, but I don't think she actually got what it was supposed to be. She's cute, but she's definitely very, very face surface value when it comes to art. And maybe that's why I appreciate art so much growing up, because neither of my parents really had an interest in art. And I was able to explore it freely. Like they weren't pushing it on me. They weren't giving me their opinions of what art is. I was kind of able to decipher that on my own. And I really do appreciate that. I had that. And a lot of people think, if you're an artist, then you should influence that on your kids. Now it's like the opposite for when I have kids. Will I push art on my kids? And I don't think I will. I'll give them a crayon and a coloring book, a single crayon. They only get one. I'll give them crayons and a coloring book, and I'll see if they explore it. But if they really want to do like sports, or if for whatever reason they're really big into like football or something, I'll be there supporting them every step of the way.
Heather Peterson says, I had a dream about being chased by a vampire. I found a katana and stabbed him through the heart, but he kept coming. I got angry and told him he was supposed to be dead, and he said, I am? Hang on, I gotta go talk to the director.
That's strange. But I'm pretty sure a katana doesn't work. You have to use a stake.
Yeah, that's what they said in parentheses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like, I should have used a stake.
Yeah, I don't know if a katana does the job.
Unless like katana was laced with holy water.
Who creates these myths? I was just thinking that, like, why is silver bullet for a werewolf? Like, who made these up, and why did they stick over centuries of storytelling? I don't know. I like it though.
I don't know why silver was. I think it's because silver is so pure.
Oh, that's it. I think you're right. You're right.
Diana says, I watched Jumanji really young, and I think I thought it was a Ouija board type of thing where angry spirits come through, and I remain scared of it to this day.
Oh. Actually, yeah, if you think of Jumanji, it is kind of scary. You know what was the most scary part is the pieces moved by themselves. Did that not, like, freak anyone else out as a kid?
What freaked me out were the bugs.
What?
The giant bugs.
Yeah, like, there's some scary parts in that.
Like, the mosquito things are, like, massive, and do they, like, kill people?
Maybe? I'd have to see it again.
That, to me, was terrifying.
Oh, I like Jerry. I feel like he should work at the Subway around the corner. Hey, Jerry, how's it going? He already knows my order because he knows me so well.
His response is that noise, but it's like in subtitled, it says like, what day is going all right?
Yeah, right. Hey, Tim, how are you doing? You want your usual? Yeah, what if he just had a normal voice?
He wouldn't be as fun.
Hey, now.
He wouldn't.
I don't judge people by what they look like.
By their voices.
Who knows? Maybe Jerry's a girl. Well, I guess I should have put a top on then.
I was like,
Ugh.
Needs more hair. Top Cat says, do you think that entertainment art specific programs like ones at Gnomon or Art Center and whatnot are worth it, or should you go for a more traditional art education approach like an illustration or industrial design program?
I think both. I don't think it should be one or the other. I think having as many as you can influence your art is the best way to go. If you're trying to build more like foundations, I do think having like the traditional skills and really look at art on a technical aspect and then get more into the digital, I think that might be a path I would choose. But is it the right path? Once again, like there is no right or wrong answer in which is the best way to learn art. But I will say the best way to learn art is to push yourself and really explore things that are new to you and do your best to be constructively critical on yourself and your pieces without being negative. Oh yeah, this guy's done.
Dick Scott wants you to add a Subway uniform to him.
A what?
A Subway uniform.
I could do a quick one. Is it sad that I think I actually have the Subway uniform kind of memorized? Wait, hold on. It's actually
You're so totally gonna do it.
Well, I figured. I mean, I already finished. Entertain the crowd, I guess.
Sarah Mulbacher says, Am I the only one who thinks that playing horror games is way more scary than watching horror movies?
Yes, I totally agree. I can't play a horror game. I mean, I beat Dead Space, but like Fear, I tried playing Fear, and that was like a no.
Really?
The little girl, it's The Ring.
Oh man, I really liked Fear. Fear was one of my
God.
favorites for a while.
Although, you know what? I will say I didn't get that far. I only got to the part where you crawl through the tunnel and she crawls at you. And I was like, nope. No. None of this. None of
The
this is happening.
There's one, I think it might have been in Fear 2. There's a part where you're climbing up a ladder and like there's like a little vent thing and she like swipes at you like it's a jump scare, but like that was the one thing where I was like, oh
Yes.
god.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
And then that's why I was like, nope, no. I gave it a shot. No.
I really like shadow play though. Like I really like when you're walking down a hallway and like you see the shadow behind you.
Oh yeah.
Like I always love that. Like I love when designers do that and then you turn around and there's nothing there.
Oh, that's what Dead Space I think did so well is like noises or like something falls over.
Yeah.
Like that I really appreciated.
Actually, the new Batman Arkham Knight game did a really good. I'm not going to spoiler it for anybody, but there's a part at the end of the game that they did extremely well because they play on that like the like things being like really far away and then you turn around and all of a sudden it's really close. You know, that to me is always like when game designers push that edge, I love it.
Totally agree.
But what I was going to say about this question was the VR headsets that are coming out. Like,
Yeah. Though I can't do that. No way.
imagine playing like Outlast or Amnesia.
Even Five Nights at Freddy's would scare me.
Right, but playing that in a VR headset.
Yeah, no. I won't have any of that. Subway. If you guys don't know why, I really like Subway. He'd be a good worker. Oh, are we? Sorry, are we at the time where I should do a quick through?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna look through the questions. So let's see here.
Well, this is a good one actually. I want you to hit this one first.
Okay, go.
It says, I'm working on a comic that deals a lot in horror suspense atmosphere, where very little is shown but a great deal is implied in the weight of the atmosphere. Any tips on consistently carrying that feeling visually over the comic without being overbearing?
Yes, I do. Man, I would actually really like to see your book because I think minimalistic horror is usually the best. So the way to keep, and I think you have to also border on that edge of it being boring because sometimes when nothing is happening so much or there's too little happening, I think it doesn't become as engaging. So I guess finding that balance between what is engaging without it being overbearing will be the challenge for you. My tips on that would be to have, and I wish I could find the video I watched where it talks about how with story building, you have like moments where you're building suspension, and then usually there's a point where people expect something, and then horror genre plays on this all the time, and then it'll like suspend itself for a little while, and then the action will happen right there. So I think you need to have a lot of that, and then it goes back down. So even though yours won't be as dramatic or cliche, I think having the rising action and then having there be some kind of reaction or something where the tension then dies back down and having that go up and down like a pulse. And that's the best way to look at it, in my opinion. Or I hope that helps. But it sounds really cool, the idea that you have. Okay, let's see here. I'd order a sub from Jerry. Awesome. Don't forget to tip. He doesn't make much. He needs a name tag. Me and Joe were just talking about how we could have done a Draw Anything stream today, and I feel like it kind of turned into that. Jerry. Let's see here. I'm going to bed. This stream is too spooky for me. Come on now. Jerry's not going to harm you too much. Oh, yeah, if I started flipping the canvas really fast. I don't know if that would be scary or not. Or if I like made a black layer and turned that on and off. Well, he's not really that scary when he's wearing his Subway uniform. Oh, man, this is actually a really cool concept. I had a dream where a little tree grew on my hand. I pulled it, and the roots were in my bones, and all the bones in my hand pulled out. I shoved them back in and woke up, and my hand hurt and was red where the tree was in my dream. That's really cool. I think that's what VHS does, the movies. I haven't seen any of them, but apparently it's like a collection of short horror stories. And I guess I should see it before I talk about it. But even like those books that we grew up with as a kid, I think they were called Scary Stories. I think it was something as simple as that. But it was just a collection of those really creepy, scary stories put together into a book. And I think that this would fit right in with that. You're not sure if you would eat a sandwich handled by them. Just remember they are required to wear gloves. I only know that because they have to retake or put on new gloves every single time they make a new sandwich. So none of Jerry's attributes would be on your sandwich. Oh man, there are a lot. Let's see, I'll try to find maybe like 3 more. Do you have any tips on having a clean sketch in line work? Are there some useful rules? I definitely apply it more to traditional, and it's taking your time, but still creating a very light foundation with your pencil, but then going over it slowly and carefully, but then having it have that darker etch to it and taking your time with it. Digital, usually it is more challenging. I will say it's easier on a Cintiq, but when you're doing it on a tablet, if you really want those clean strokes and you're getting like frustrated, try a software that actually has line manipulation to it where, what's that called, Joe?
Shape Dynamics?
No. Shoot. Is it Shape? I don't think it is Shape Dynamics.
You mean line? You said line variation, right?
No, where it like when you do your stroke, it takes the shakiness out of it.
Oh, Stabilizer?
Thank you. Yeah. So Photoshop usually, or hopefully will have it in the next update, but they don't have one right now unless if you download a plugin, and that's only on a PC, so I can't use it because I have a Mac. But on like Mischief has it, Paint Tool Sci has it, and those stabilizers really help create nice fluid looking line art. Have I ever watched myself in a dream? Only once, and it was from my killer's perspective, so it was really bizarre. Did you know that The Ring was originally from Japan and it was called Sadako? Yes, I did know that, and I am kind of terrified to watch it, just because The Ring really got to me, and it would be really hard for me to. Well, maybe now that I'm older, when October rolls around, I'll sit down and I'll view through it. Oh, that's cool. Someone said, I don't really like horror at all, but I really enjoy hearing you guys take on it. Okay, one more. Okay, you're driving on the freeway and a giant spider starts walking across the dashboard. Joe, what would you do? Well, it's for both of us, but what would you do?
Like giant spider as in like tarantula size?
Yes.
I would probably I'd probably grip onto the steering wheel as hard as I could and be like, I can't crush my car. I can't crush my car. Like I'd replay that in my head. I'd probably try to pull over.
All right. Being the spider prince myself, I would befriend it and try to acquire it for my local army. So that is our live stream for the day. We do these CG Cookie Wednesday live streams every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time, and that's -5 GMT. And the topic is usually posted about 2 hours beforehand, and we'll post it on our Facebook, DeviantArt, Twitter, Tumblr, and more importantly, our community page. So anything that we talk about or any links that we want to share, artists that we want you guys to check out, we'll post it on the community post that we have at CG Cookie, and I believe it's community.cgcookie.com. Let me double check that to make sure. Yes, it is that. It's not cgcookie.community. It's community.cgcookie.com. And that's where me and Joe check it usually every day, see if there's new topics for the concept art, specifically related materials, and then we'll post stuff on our own. And this is also the last week of the workshop that I'm running right now. So starting next week, me and Joe will finally get to dive into creating the color course. And I'm really excited to not only do the recordings, but kind of teach myself more about things that I'm still a little unfamiliar with. And hopefully I can share that knowledge and information with you as Joe creates tutorials as well. So thank you guys for coming to this live stream. I hope Jerry did his job, and don't forget to tip, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all I got. That's all I got, Joe. That's all I got.
Okay. I think the announcement that I have is next week I'll probably be doing the live stream. So
that's right. Yeah.
We're gonna be working on metal and reflections, so like armors and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're gonna have Joe do his first live stream next week, so you should definitely come to that, root him on, and it should be a fun one. It'd actually be kind of fun being the moderator for once and getting to read all the questions. So, all right, that's all I got.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.